goodness. Hey! And I had over a 3-hour live stream last night. It was very productive. I don't know why, but it was a huge collection of people. Those live streams are never monetized, so it doesn't matter how many people show up. You know, I always delete live streams after they're done. And had a lot of interesting conversations. I think people are starting to see the crunch. Actually, I don't think so. I know so. And by the crunch, it's becoming more and more and more obvious to people that have their heads buried in the sand. You know, like what's coming down the pike. Before it was just talk, and like, yeah, whatever. And now they can hear it coming down the road. I mean that quite literally. I'd like to mention a few things here. I'd like this to be a fun and yet extremely informational video, to the point as possible within the short span of what a video is generally capable of. I mean, if you make it too long, people get bored. If you make it too short, people complain that you didn't elaborate on things enough. So there's always that happy zone there. Before getting into this video, I don't know if you've actually heard of these people called, they're a couple of Marxists. They're called Cloward and Piven. They actually had a strategy to completely overturn the United States. It's a three-point plan. Point number one is to destroy the U.S. dollar by printing trillions and trillions of dollars, which of course is what we've been doing for X number of years, right? And I don't know if you know this or not, but all inflation comes from the government. All inflation comes from, well, 99% does, essentially all of it. Second point is to open all borders. Yeah, try to cause internal rot, the multi-point strategy by doing so. That's point number two. The third one is to actually create a gigantic deep state to go after normal everyday citizenry. And the second aspect of the same point is to destroy the private sector. So that's the three-point strategy. All of these things are actually going full blast right now. And of course, this is why it's called Agenda 2030. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but here's 5 things. We were talking about this last night. You know, it's kind of obvious, and yet sometimes it takes somebody to actually state the obvious sometimes. There's many points, but really there's 5 fundamental ones. You know, you could point to many things that it mentioned in these 5 points. Yeah, that destroy our lives, especially all Western society. And if we could reduce at least 3 of these 5 points, we're all better. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. We are all better. Number 1 is miseducation. I'm talking. I said talking. Sorry about that. I've talked about this endlessly. Wow. Yeah, I'll edit that out of this video. Bad education, misinformation, actually feeding us lies and nonsense, not actually learning about the nature of things. Point number 2 is, of course, that we're taxed to death. Point number 3 is the lies and the propaganda. And this, of course, is where point number 1 comes into place, where you don't have the toolbox within your brain to discern truth from lies and propaganda, and the education point. That third point is the media. These are lying demons of the highest order. They make us want things we shouldn't want and spend our money. Money is not important. People say, well, money's never important. It's like, well, that's true. But people, to chase after money, say you don't want anything at all, just to pay the bills and groceries and whatnot, we actually sacrifice most of our lives, which is time. A life is a span of time to buy these things. So the media, people, you know, believing anything the media says or make us want things we don't need, is keeping up with the Joneses nonsense, like we have to have a new vehicle, you know, every X number of years, on and on and on, perpetually in debt. Number 4 is eating garbage. You know, I know I'm fat and out of shape. That is, you know, very obvious to anybody with 2 brain cells. But I did not grow up eating Doritos or candy bars or, you know, energy drinks. I admit to eating 2 of them that nearly killed me. I was just, very thirsty, and it was super hot outside, and I bought a couple. I'll regret that to the day I die. By the way, that energy drink was called Bang, because that's the sound your heart makes when it explodes after drinking one or two of them. So eating garbage. This, of course, makes us miserable. It makes us more susceptible to the media and to brainwashing and to the horrific education. These are the 5 points. Actually, the first one should be when we're very young, before we're able to go to public indoctrination camps, i.e. public school. They make us get all of these various different types of... Well, you need this stab juice to go to school for the measles, this and this and this and this and this and this. I'm not saying that's good or bad because I'm not allowed to discuss such things on social media. But if we could actually reduce at least 3 of these 5 or 6 primary things, and I mentioned 6. The worst is actually education. Number 2, tax to death. Number 3, media lies. Number 4, eating garbage. And actually number 5 is chasing after money. We only have so much time in our lives, and young people don't appreciate this. They say youth is wasted on the young, and it really is wasted on the young. But you need to value your time. I've had a lot of energy vampires. They really are. They're energy vampires. Try to suck your life away from you. I had 10 years, taken in my life, and of course it was worse for my wife, taking care of her for 10 years. And I have all these people that think I can be bought. Or they think that, I'm not allowed to have my own life. I have to do everything around here. I have to pay the bills. I don't eat fancy food. I buy used clothing off of eBay. I got a used piece of clothing in today from eBay that I bought. I watch like 4 or 5 things that I need, and I'll buy used clothing on eBay. People that try to deprive you of your time, I cannot stand, by the way, to talk along. If you're talking to me longer than 20 minutes on the phone, then there is something seriously wrong. I never talk, other than live stream or videos, I'm never talking. I mean, never. I'm always in really deep thought. I am not a lip flapper. People might think that during live stream where I'm talking for hours, but I'm never talking in real life. Not that that's not real life. But if I can beg anybody that's younger, something you really got to keep watch of is, if you really, it's your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, and you really love talking to them, fine, but you really, really got to watch out for people that will, just are energy vampires, just ruin your life by stealing your time. And, your life is your own. Your hands are your own. You lead your own life. You make up your own choices. Some people are afraid to do that. Here's another key point that I've actually followed basically my entire life, and most people don't. I find it weird. I'm a bit unusual, not in a bad way. I don't have any skeletons in my closet. I lead a simple, clean, pure life. Yeah, I'm not fat and out of shape, I know that. I'm covered in tattoos, but I do lead a simple life. People need to drop their emotions. Your emotions should be saved for your family and your loved ones and your children, or a good movie or a bad movie or good music or whatever. Everything else you should drop your emotions on. If you don't know how to turn your emotions off, then you are what the ancient people called a charioteer who didn't have control of the reins. In other words, your horses were loose. They're just taking you whenever, wherever. If you don't know how to turn your emotions off, you really got a serious problem. Unfortunately, the public evil school system, and it is pure evil, never taught you that. They never taught you anything important in school, because if they taught you important stuff in school and taught you the ability to think, then you would be infinitely less susceptible to brainwashing from the media and eating garbage and chasing after money. And the way you chase after money is, for most people anyway, sacrificing a great deal of your life, which of course is time. You have a certain time span. The other thing that people don't get is dropping belief systems. You are not your beliefs. That's reason for 99% of the strife and misery in the world. I don't mean physical misery due to diseases and maladies, but I just mean every other variety of misery. It's not being able to drop your beliefs. I'm going to say this in Russian very simply for those who speak Russian. Сумасшедшие дураки. Везде, блядь. Сумасшедшие дураки. Oi. It's just, sorry about that. There's a little bit of Russian there. I like to talk about something towards the end of this I've been observing, and you've been observing for the past X number of years, but it's accelerating and it's incredibly important. Another key point that I need to mention, and I don't care about money other than being able to pay the bills, is that don't buy things you don't need. There's all sorts of little weird trinkets on this table, you know, part of which I've bought that I don't need, and the same is true for the rest of our lives. The things that we have in our house, which of course is a shed for storing our junk, 99% of which of course we don't need. Don't spend money, invest it wisely. Nobody taught me that when I was younger. I think I learned it a lot earlier than most people did, and I essentially knew it, but I was too busy with 10 million other things in life, understanding some of the really deep secrets and mysteries of the universe. So I focused on everything else, pretty much except for that. Like I said, I don't care about money other than paying the bills. Right now, as you very well know, the world is upside down. Here's something that people don't think of, the metaphysics of what's kind of going on in the world right now, because a lot of it is forced. It is planned by others, but I'm not interested in talking about that. That insanity destroys itself. You know, we should care about other people, but we can't actually, you know, stick our head in the horror of what is. It will, by its own very nature, self-destruct. I'm just asking you that you don't need to get caught in the horror of what is, you know, trying to fight it. It will, by its very nature, self-destroy. It will undergo its own self-destruction. It will. It's just, there's no question about this. The question is how long are you willing to wait? Some of us may last that long, some of us may not. The waves of insanity that are going on right now are absolutely off the scale. The stuff that I'm seeing, it's even worse than in 2019 and 2020 when, you know, people were screaming at you, you know, like you were endangering them because your face diaper was hanging below your nose. You know, that level of insanity. It's actually gotten worse, except it has moved on to a different front. I'd like to point out a couple of those, and you could say that's anecdotal, but it's not. I'm hearing it everywhere. By the way, this is something else important about what's going on right now. Right now we're living in good times of peace and calm. You may not think we are. And of course, relativistic, you know, to, you know, 1920s, 1930s, your great-grandparents, your grandparents, depending on how old you are. We're living in very calm and lazy times where people can sit around a loaf and play video games and, you know, waste their life away doing completely irrelevant things. But the difference that we keep applauding out there in the world, that's about as specific as I want to get. It either flourishes because it is superior in some way or in many ways, or it's supported by the kindness and generosity of others, or it is sustained. And right now what we have is good times, you know. I know it's way infinitely worse than it was in like 2018 and prior, but this is still, in the scheme of things, in the spectrum of, you know, the past 100 years, we're living in good times. It's either sustained in good times, it's sustained out of the kindness of others, or it flourishes naturally via natural order because it is superior in one way or many, or it is inferior and weak in every way, and tough times will erase it. You know, lots and lots of things that would never... It's kind of like there's these certain types of animals, like, well, they went extinct. It's like, yeah, but they could only they could only live in a plus or minus a 5-degree temperate zone, and they had to have a special kind of food, and, you know, they had to be babied, and, you know... Everything, it's kind of like a super fragile piece of glassware. It's got to be under a box, and light can't fall on it or it'll actually break because the light builds up the capacitance. It's this really ornate glass structure, you know, so it's temperature controlled, you know, it's just super, super fragile. Tough times will, by nature, you know, take care of these things. Right now, there's all sorts of you got to be careful how I say this, really, really fragile glassware. You know, the world is full of people that are living in a nutshell, sniffing their own flatulence, almost literally. And they're the most fragile piece of ornate glassware. You can't even breathe on it or it might break. And that's all well and fine, and that might be beautiful, but, you know, nature doesn't abide these things, and tough times always takes, you know, last major strike, alligators survived, and palm trees survived, and little lizards survived, but everything else kind of wiped out. Yeah, the same is true of different types of dinosaurs among humanity. And, you know, if it's weak and it's inferior, you know, tough times will take care of those things. I don't concern myself with them because they flourish because we're living in good times. I really had to point that out. I don't know if you know this or not, but September the 22nd through the 23rd of this year, it's called Summit of the Future. Member nations pledge their allegiance, essentially, to the United Nations as the central entity, you know, like the global government. It's basically United Nations 2.0. Go look up the Summit of the Future. That happens here in, what, 2 weeks from now? A little less than 2 weeks from now? Called Summit of the Future. Now, this is anecdotal, a couple things. By the way, Springfield, Ohio, which is just north of Dayton, Ohio, is not extremely far from here. You know, people before the city council are talking about new people to the state or to the city. You know, they're eating the ducks and the ponds. You know, they're eating them raw. You know, there's some skinny 95-pound woman. She's talking about people screaming at her and throwing mattresses into her yard, and you know, doing this number to the poor lady. There are people say, "What are we going to do?" It's unfortunate that lady is older and she's only 95 pounds. There's a lot of people across this country. And in Ireland, I've heard a lot from Irish people in various Western countries. They're like, what are we going to do? We have a lot more freedoms and a lot more power to defend ourselves here in this country than Europe or Australia or the land of Kiwis or Canada does, thankfully. Thank goodness for that. I don't know if you know what's going on. Go ahead and Google Springfield, Ohio, and see what it comes up with. People with a spine and a backbone will not put up with this filth. I mean, you try that. It would work in some parts of this city, Lexington, which is, you know, really quite substantially a lefty city. This is a college town, and you got people driving around in their convertibles, sipping their cafe lattes, and they're really quite fragile, and they're spineless. But people with a spine will not put up with this. And this is still the United States of America. I don't care what you think about it one way or another, but we don't put up with that stuff. At least the normal ones of us don't. I mean, you don't pull that kind of stuff. You know, Mississippi, Montana, Kentucky, Georgia, most of Florida. And this is increasing at an exponential rate. It's actually getting really bad. By the way, I know a guy named Charles. I don't want to say what his last name is. He's got a friend that used to be his girlfriend. And there's a guy that's, I know this guy and I know the girl. I said his first name, but that's all. She went home, and some guy had a crush on her, and he was waiting for her. This is absolutely horrible. And I know this is anecdotal, but there's a lot of this craziness that's going rampant everywhere. He took her out. I mean, he removed her from this plane of existence. Went inside. I can't actually say what he did inside. You know, set the place on fire, took himself out. Right now, we actually have a massive exponential increase in crime and identity theft. People have tried to pull countless types of identity theft on me. You know, and that's a person, meaning me, who is extremely well protected on that front. I can't imagine. Actually, my dear mother, she had to have her debit card. She never goes anywhere. You know, she's not out like waving the debit card around or online. She doesn't do anything online at all. She's had to have her debit card renewed 2 or 3 times in just the past 8 or 9 months. I can't imagine how bad it is out there. I hear from a lot of people on this. What I'm saying to you in essence in this the spiel that I've been saying is that I'm begging you, you need to prepare. You really, really, really need to prepare yourself. And that's on countless fronts. Spiritually, physically, tool-wise. I'll let you figure out what tools mean. This is one example, and I've seen, and this, you can say this is anecdotal, but I've seen this a gazillion times. Myself, in person, from the countless emails that you send me. This is one guy, not me. I snapped at strangers in public settings a few times in the past few months. I was pissed off so bad at every day and everything, how dumb everybody's become. They're getting dumber and lazier. They refuse to do their job. The dumb people are absolutely everywhere. They're making my day more hideous than it was before. They're so, I'm going to say unintelligent. He says the same thing. They're costing me even more time to fix their ignorance, having to deal with their ignorance, and when you're telling them how ignorant they are, on and on and on. You can imagine how that goes. I had to deal with that in 2 phone calls today. You know, just the level of ignorance, apathy, and stupidity. People, I know it's called quiet quitting, but it's actually reached a level above quiet quitting. People, well, I'm not going to do this job. I'm going to show up, do just enough work not to get fired because this job's not paying me enough to survive. And essentially that's true. But if you don't want to work, you should just sit at home and play video games, because the world has gotten extremely sick of people that are working just enough not to get fired. And the rest of us, normal people that work hard, we're sick to death of you. We're absolutely sick to death of you. You know, forget your quiet quitting, sit at home and play video games, and, scratch your derriere, whatever it is you do normally in your off time. Don't do your job or don't show up to work at all. It's actually gotten so much worse. And it seems like it's getting worse. It doesn't seem. It is. It's getting worse day by day. There's a new normal, but the new normal is on a creeping downslide off of a cliff. And you really have to be extremely isolated or extremely ignorant not to see it and acknowledge it yourself. Cloward and Piven and their 3-point strategy for turning America into, a Marxist wonderland. I say that tongue-in-cheek. It's full steam right now in the United States. But if any of us, and I've broken off 3 of these, okay? Any of us can take these 5 and reduce at least 3 of them. Education, I took care of that at a very young age, miseducation. Taxed to death, media lies, I never fell for that. I always knew that they were lying filth, the media. Eating garbage. I didn't grow up eating candy bars and popcorn. It looks like that considering how fat I am. I got fat off of regular food like steak and potatoes. Eating garbage, I've actually gone all Whole Foods. Not Whole Foods, the grocery store, which is pure evil, by the way. I mean, all raw, natural foods. Feel 100% better. So I've taken care of 3 of those fronts. As far as chasing money, I was never interested in chasing money. I'm only ever trying to pay the bills. God forbid I ever take a vacation. But at least I've broken off 3 of the 5. Thankfully, I did 2 of those at a very early age. I could see right through people. I've always had a great gift at being able to do that, especially the lies of media. I hope you can too. If you could reduce at least 2 to 3 of those off the list, your life will be a whole lot better. And I beg you, I'm way too nice. I really do mean this. I'm not saying that, and that's a bad thing. I wished I was a lot more, I don't want to say less nice growing up, but it would have helped me a lot more. And that I'm just way too nice. And I didn't value my time enough letting other people take, because I've always been a source of information, and people just call me up and, tap me for information and just talk my leg off. I mean, right to the point where, thank God I never put the phone up to my ear. I'd already have a brain tumor, like my wife. She didn't get it from a cell phone, by the way. It's people just sucking the life out of you. I mean, I won't let that happen again. It's over with for me on that front. I have sacrificed, and I continue to, I write my books and articles which are free, and that's a major time sucker, but I love doing that, and that's my own free will to choose to do that. But other people that are energy vampires, I beg you to shun them, because they're just endless out there. They don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't want to do the work themselves, whether it be physical or intellectual work. And they'll just destroy your life. And they'll take great pleasure in doing it. And you need to learn, it's very important, you weren't taught that once again, to drop your emotions. Emotions are great for your family, your children, a movie and good music and stuff like that, but otherwise turn your emotions off. If you don't know how to turn your emotions off, then you're half the person that you're capable of being. And that's very important. And also, too, if you can't drop your beliefs, you've also, too, got a serious issue. Unfortunately, everybody suffers from that. Nearly everybody. Most people cannot drop their beliefs because they think they are their beliefs. And if dropping them, they'd be dropping themselves. And that's where the big fight comes in with people. Not literal fight. Sometimes it is, but I beg you to value your time more. But people are getting, the world is upside down right now. It's getting more and more so. And you need to be able to isolate yourself so that when, you know, the last straw breaks the camel's back, and it's coming quickly, you can say to yourself and or your family, hey, we're okay. We got land, we got supplies, you know. We're going to have to buckle down, things are going to get tougher, but we'll be okay. If you can say that, then you've done what you needed to do. Most people can't say that. Some people have been rolling their eyes for the past 3 years when myself and other people have been talking about this, but I can assure you, it's coming quickly, and it is coming. Watch out for September 22nd. Let's see what happens after the... Actually, nothing's going to happen after that immediately, but I mean, you know, that is a big coffin nail on September the 23rd. UN 2.0, essentially, as it's being called. So, I'll catch you in the next live stream. I hope you have a lovely week. Okay? Peace out, Girl Scout. Oh, don't you love the lava lamp?